Cool. Well, g'day, David. Welcome to the show, mate. It's great to have you here.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I got to tell you, Peter, for other people, I wasn't feeling so well. I'm a little under the weather, but I was like, nope, we're going to make the interview with Peter happen. I don't care if I have to get there in a wheelchair. We're going to get it done. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I'll just let you know, too. It's actually 4 o'clock in the morning here in Australia. I went to bed
Well,
early.
I appreciate you getting up early.
Went to bed early, got up early, excited, ready to go. And so let's hook in, man. First thing I want to just get you to kind of go over is, could you tell us what you're working on? Have you got like events coming up or special interviews? What are you doing at the moment?
A lot of stuff going on. So, I put things into really two categories of things I work on. The Rise to the Top, which is my interview show where I interview, successful entrepreneurs and people like that. So, with that, it's always working on big guests. Amazing guests are coming up. I'm very excited about Barbara Corcoran, who's coming up on the show, and Barbara Corcoran is on a show here in the United States called Shark Tank, which is on ABC, where basically entrepreneurs come in and pitch these 5 investors, and she's the one female on the show, and she went from $1,000 loan from a boyfriend to building $1 billion real estate empire in New York. And so I'm very, very much looking forward to interviewing her coming up. And the other thing that I have going on that I'm very, very excited about, and this is kind of under wraps right now, so it's sort of an exclusive, is that I actually have a new site coming out relatively soon that is going to be just a site for people that are doing shows like this. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be just for podcasters, web show hosts, new media broadcasters, all that kind of stuff. And the site is going to be very, very cool. I'm excited about that. And there's going to be a membership component to it where people can get members. There's going to be an exclusive show for members. And also the big component's networking. Because a lot of people, you don't know what you don't know in this industry. Like when I started this in 2008, there wasn't a lot of resources or anything like that. And I want to create a really cool community of basically online talk show hosts in all shapes and forms of fashion and kind of grow this all together. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'm spending a lot of time on that right now.
All right. What kind of time frame are we looking at for that one to actually come out?
Oh, yeah.
Predicted time frame.
Yeah,
I won't hold you to it, I promise. I won't hold you to it.
Yeah, I would say June, maybe mid to late June. Mm-hmm. Which could turn into July, of course, but it's going to be relatively soon.
Okay, so October, yeah.
So November 2015. So,
all right. Could you just tell us, man, what it is that you do? Tell us about, it's your show. You created this show. What it is that actually happens on a day-to-day basis, because you're up to episode 307 now, and
we're rolling. Yeah, so basically the basic premise of the Rise to the Top, which is my main show, which I do online, is that it's a long-form interview show with successful entrepreneurs. And we've had a lot of sub-series of doing other things as well, but the real core of the show is that I look for kind of interesting, successful people, usually entrepreneurs, not always, to kind of tell their story and give their insights and just have these kind of 30 to 45-minute interviews on the show. And that's what it's been all about, is doing these really fun conversations with people like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how did you get started? Like, you obviously didn't start there online. I know your story because I've been following you a little while now and watched a million interviews. But could you just share with us your story? How did you get started in this online web show game?
Yeah, so weird story. I have no background in this whatsoever. So it wasn't like I went to school for broadcast. I actually went to school for women's studies. So that's a whole other story for another time. But I graduated from school, and I was involved in. I've always had an interest in broadcasting. Like even when I was a little kid, I kind of had an interest in it, but it wasn't anything I've ever pursued or tried to do anything with. And I was involved in a hockey company in St. Louis after I graduated college called Pro Inline Hockey Association. I was running it, and long story short is I ended up with a local radio show where I'm from in St. Louis, Missouri, USA, about inline hockey of all weird things. So it was called Get in Line, your source for professional inline hockey in St. Louis with David Siteman Garland. And this was back in 2006. So 2006 was basically the jumpstart of my broadcasting, and it happened to be on the radio, and it happened to be also with no experience. So I would literally write down every single word I was going to say on the show. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'd have a script up. I'd be like, hello, I'm David, and welcome to Get in Line. I mean, come on. But bottom line is I fell in love with broadcasting in general. It's just right then and there. I love doing the interviews. We'd interview, players and coaches and stuff like that. And I love that part. And I was sitting in a coffee shop with a friend of mine. And I said, I'm ready to move on from pro inline hockey, do something bigger. And I have this idea to do a show focused more around entrepreneurship, but not like grandpa's show about entrepreneurship, like something that's a little hipper and like the guests are a little bit cooler, but a talk show style TV show. And so actually what I did first, before I moved it to the web, was did a local television show in St. Louis in 2008. Where we were able to get it on the air on ABC locally, self-produced it with like a team of freelancers, and got it up there. And then eventually that grew into becoming the website, which then grew into going international with it and taking it completely online. And it went completely 100% online end of 2009. So that's kind of the timeline on there.
Okay, and so that's the Rise to the Top. When did that actually begin? What was that? What was the date?
So the Rise to the Top actually began because it was the same. The website launch, the idea came to me in July-ish, August-ish, 2008. The first episode went on TV and also online on the risetotop.com in October 2008.
Okay. And so what were your first guests like? Like they weren't like at the moment, like so far you read your guest list, and it's just like reading my bookshelf. You got like Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, got Tony Hsieh, Tim Ferriss, Yannick Silver, man, these are massive names. Like you didn't start there, man. How did you start?
No,
like who were you interviewing at first?
And what was interesting is that when I started, I was doing local. And so local has its own limitations for a lot of different ways. And I could have never gotten a Seth Godin or a Tony Hsieh locally whatsoever. So the first year, I basically focused on local business owners that I just happen to know in St. Louis, in St. Louis. So like, our first guest was actually a guy who has a kind of a vodka bar burger restaurant type place, slash. And he was the first guest ever on the show. As he came on and we talked about like how he started it and where he came up with the idea and all that kind of stuff. And, the first season of the show, was really just anyone I could get my grubby hands on locally. You know what I mean? It was all just kind of like everything from a graphic designer to other people just, started very, very small with my guests.
Okay, and now you, like going online, I mean, it's a whole different world going online than it is. I've never done TV, but I could imagine it's a very different world. So how did you, because you're an amazing community builder. That's pretty much what you've done here. You built an awesome community of entrepreneurs. Did you already have some kind of insight in how to do that, or did it just kind of happen ad hoc?
It was really trial and error and how to do so. It's just that I'm a very passionate person, so like I want to go out there and talk about this. I want to bring people in. I want to reel people in and get them involved in the community. It started with pro inline hockey because back then we basically had to create a community around this hockey league that was going on in St. Louis. And I kind of, just by trial and error, would just kind of, start getting Facebook and interacting with people and getting hockey fans in and kind of, calling up local media and getting interviewed and doing stuff like that and trying to draw people to the website. And, there was just all this stuff I started to learn how to do. But there wasn't a roadmap that I used whatsoever. It was honestly trial and error. Some of the key things that I did, especially early on, number one, was consistency was always very, very important from the beginning. I'd always have a schedule of when the shows were going to get released. And it's changed since 2008, of course. But I'm saying, online, on TV, of course, it was on Sundays, right? But the same thing applies online because people start to realize when to show up, right? Like when if they know a new show's coming on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Wednesdays, whatever, they learn how to show up. So consistency was very, very important because people, it just shows you're not a flash in the pan. Another thing that I did was I threw local events to get local entrepreneurs interested because realize my early marketing was all focused locally, right? And then it moved, everywhere. So I would host little dinners, 30, 40-person dinners, dinner and discussions. Then we did Rise lunches and stuff like that, where I was just getting people there. It was just like, I'd invite people off of Facebook, just people that I networked with or met in the community, just say, hey, let's get out there. And that was a brand builder because, people take photos and do videos at the events. And, that started to, to build a little bit of clout. Did a lot of writing. So I would guest blog or write wherever I could. At the time, especially early on, I don't do this anymore, but in 2008, 2010 area, a lot of people saw me in the social media space, and they were like, "Oh, can you give us some tips on social media and stuff like that?" Just because, which is interesting because it's not necessarily what I do,
Yeah.
but people are like, "Oh, you know a lot about social media because you're building an audience on social media." So I would do a lot of guest posting, small business trends, personal branding blog, HubSpot, places like that, all bringing traffic in. But really just spent a lot of time interacting, on Facebook and Twitter, especially, meeting people, networking, schmoozing, working in the room, saying hi, answering emails, doing all that kind of stuff that in the trenches. I'm very much from the Gary Vaynerchuk school of just working your butt off to get this stuff done. There's no magic pill or potion,
Yeah, that's right. So now what's a typical workday for you? Okay, so you're consistent, you're doing all that sort of stuff. Did you start out once a week doing a show?
No, I started out
two a day?
Online. Yeah, the first year online I did 5 times a week, which was insane. I did 5 interviews a week for like a year and a half, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I would do that, and that was a little stressful, to say the least. But it was fun, but it was a little stressful. I do 2 now, and then I'm adding in some other ones when I do this new website. But I always I view workflow as like not an absolute. I try to change it periodically depending on what's going on, and I never want to get bored. So I'm always as soon as I start to get bored, I try to change the workflow up a little bit. But right now, what works well for me is dedicating certain days to certain things. Right. So now actually it's just changing. Wednesdays and Thursdays I like to shoot my interviews. Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then I set times during the week for certain things. So, for example, being interviewed on a show like this, there's like 2 time slots of blocks that I have a week to do interviews or guest stuff or marketing, PR type related things. So that's blocked into the schedule. I edit on the same day. Meaning I edit on after I do the interviews on Wednesday and Thursday. I kind of gotten into a system, and then I send the interviews to my virtual assistant on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then she makes it all pretty and gets it up for Tuesday and Thursday. So you get into sort of a system. I think the key is just getting into a system. And, because I would say 2 years I spent running and gunning and trying to figure it out. Now I try to pull back because the business has more responsibilities now. There's more sponsors, there's more things going on, there's things we have to deal with. So that helps for sure.
Okay, well, that's another, you just brought up a good point there when you say sponsors. Monetizing a show like this, because that's where I'm headed. Like this is, I think this is episode 14. That I'm up to now. I haven't reached that stage. I'm not even sort of really thinking about that. I'm just sort of focused on getting great guests and creating a great show, building that community. So when you want to move into sponsorships and stuff like that, what's a suggestion you could give me or someone out there watching this right now that thinking they might do this as well?
First and foremost, sponsors first of all, they want to see that you have a brand established. And so what do I mean by that? Well, number one is at least 50 shows, at least 10,000 people watching most shows. It's just the reality of the game. They want to see that there's someone that is taking it seriously, they're investing in it, and that they have, because realize when a sponsor aligns with you, that's a branding alignment, right? So if Coca-Cola comes in and sponsors you, you have to make sure that they reflect well back on them as well, right? It's not. It's a two-way street. It would look bad to them if they went to your site and your site looked like crap, and there was a Coca-Cola. It just wouldn't make sense. So brand image is a big important thing. Having consistency, getting to that 50 shows, getting those views up, and focusing on that community is critical. Now, when you're ready to start reaching out to sponsors, the best thing to do. Honestly, this sounds so simple, and I screwed this up for multiple years, so take that with you will, is that you want to go after people that are already spending money on the topics and space that you're in online. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if I have a show that where I interview dog breeders, or something like that, okay? And I want to get a pet company to sponsor it, like whatever, IMS or something like that. I'm not going to just like randomly blitz people and just be like, oh, they'd be perfect, without knowing if they're sponsoring something else online right now, right? Yeah. So like, for example, I would then go to other dog shows online, dog-related shows, and say, you know, do they have sponsors? Who are the sponsors? I would go to I would check out blogs and events in that space and say, who is spending money to reach these people? And if I have those people, you're not undercutting someone else, but you know, you're basically could probably tap into the marketing budget of a company that is already doing sponsorship. So, you know, Citrix Online, my main sponsor, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, GoToMyPC, they were not by any means their first sponsorship, you know, that they've ever done online. But I gotta tell you, that's a typical mistake made in the past, is trying to spend your time convincing people that they need to sponsor and to sponsor you. That's a hard task, you know what I mean? As opposed to convincing people to sponsor you, you know, that are already know and understand the sponsorship game. So that's one of the key things to go at it.
Okay. And just another thing that you, just to sort of backtrack a little bit, you mentioned, say, 10,000 views. How do you, what's the metrics for that? How do you actually measure who's viewing your show?
Yeah, but you know, and again, this one isn't perfect. I would love to say that it's getting improved. Everyone has different metrics that they use. The most consistent network is show downloads. Okay, and I'm putting that in quotes. And when a show download doesn't literally mean someone downloads a file, it basically means that they view the show, either the audio or the video, depending on what you have going on any device. You know, whether it's an iPod, doesn't matter what it's on. Total downloads are the most critical number for sponsorships. Okay, so, for example, we're changing companies right now, so we're in the midst of this. But my video company, which I'm staying with, of course, a partner of the show, is Wistia. Okay, Wistia is what I use for my video player. Any on-site video views, right, come through Wistia. So I have that number of on-site video views, right? Then I use another company that I'm switching from soon that does kind of sends to iTunes and does the audio and other stuff like that. They've got their metrics, right? And then I have all those metrics combined to create, you know, total downloads per episode, per month, per year, per however you want to go. You know, so that's really the key number that people care about. Okay,
awesome. Now, sort of switching gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit now, not so much tech, more I guess, the psychology of the interview, right? So obviously it does something, right? Because this is how I found it. We talked about this a little bit earlier. For me, it's almost like the interview is kind of like the smallest part of the deal. You know, the footage, the video up online. There's a whole thing that happens around it that can't really put my finger on, but it's kind of like it's the thing that positions you as an expert when you're associated with this expert or when you're associated with that expert. Can you talk a little bit about the psychology of the interview? What's going on there that makes it so cool and so powerful and draws people to you?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question because it's one of those intangibles that's like almost tricky to discuss. But it's you know, an interview is about as most intimate thing you can do with someone. Insert joke here, but you know what I mean. For the most part, an interview, you know, having a one-on-one conversation with someone where you really look to connect with them, as opposed to like the journalistic view. Like a journalistic view of the interview is like, we're not going to be friends. I'm just going to try to ask you questions and I want the answers, right? And I don't like that. I would rather be friends with the people that I'm interviewing and have that rapport that you can get. And you know what I've noticed from that big time is that if you can bring up personal stuff that they're into, unrelated to the interview or whatever it might be that you're talking about, you're going to get so much of a better rapport with people than just going right into, let's talk about your business or let's talk about this or whatever it might be. You know, like I was just had an interview with Marie Forleo, big online entrepreneur, right, and internet marketer, and I found out that she has a fetish for zombies and Smurfs. Right? Who would have thought? Like, right?
As so you
now
do.
I'm just gonna start sending her random Smurfs in the mail and stuff, and zombies or whatever, but not mummies, but zombies.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, is an incredible relationship builder when you can bond over those random things like that. Even though I'm not into Smurfs or zombies, but you start to just get to learn the psychology of it. To me, is better than any random tip or something that people can get. But there is just something magical about just having a really cool conversation, real casual, fun conversation with people.
Yeah, because and also like the thing is, this is the thing I love about it so much, and I think is what drew me to doing interviews and having this interview with you right now, is that the value just goes out in every direction. The viewer can sit there with a pen and paper taking notes. You get promoted. I get a chance to hang out and talk to people who ordinarily, this is something that I really dig about it. Once a week or twice a week, I get to sit down with an expert, and it's almost like a coaching session because I get to ask them whatever I like.
Right.
And you'd almost have to pay like thousands of dollars in some cases to have just that little space of time with someone. So, that's kind of a really cool thing that I get out of it.
Yeah, it does create like a triple win situation for sure. I mean, because there's so many value to it. I mean, you get to build the relationship with the guests. You're building a better relationship with your audience. Your audience gets access to the guests that they probably wouldn't get access to otherwise. They get to learn from them. You get to learn from them. I mean, there's plenty of people that I would know that would do interviewing, and do this in general, even if they had no goals of making a single dollar from it. It could still be the best education that you could possibly get, and you get to learn and meet these people. Like if I'm at an event and there's Seth Godin, he's been on my show twice. Like we know each other. Like that's not going to be weird when we go and talk, right? Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be like kind of creepy if I was like going up there and just like anyone else. But when you have you elevate that relationship by having the ability to do interviews with people. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's like I kind of term it. It's like a classic excuse to go up and have a conversation with someone where you have no business talking to them in any other way. But if you can say, "Hey, look, I'm really interested in interviewing you," bang, it just opens up so much opportunities. Which brings me to my next thing I want to ask you is, what were some of the early opportunities that started to come your way as a result of doing interviews?
Oh, good question. Yeah, early opportunities. So, first was people wanting me to write. So people wanted me to like do posts on their website or stuff like that. So that was an early opportunity to start to come in. Maybe related to the interview. Like when I interviewed the millionaire matchmaker Patty Stanger, I had a website that was like, hey, can you offer some of her top tips and write an article? So that was kind of a cool opportunity that came in, So started to be kind of positioned as a person, not necessarily an expert, but a person that has access to these people and that can offer insights and commentary on it. So that there started to be like writing opportunities, which are, of course, marketing opportunities that can bring more people back. The other one, the biggest one that came, there's several. One is speaking. So started being asked to moderate, MC, and speak at random events. Okay. So I had people contact, we like you on the show. Got this event. This past November, for example, I MC'd a 500 plus person female entrepreneurship event in Dallas, Texas by Allie Brown. Paid a lot of money. I mean, it was great. So speaking started to come in, and early on, it's going to be free. Early on. You know what I mean? They just want you to come and maybe moderate a panel or do that, but you build up over time. You build your portfolio up. Speaking was definitely one of the things. Special projects, consulting, whatever you want to call it. Greatest story that was out of nowhere was Google. So you've probably heard of them. So what happened was
little startup.
I was sitting on my email. This was several years ago, right? I was just on my email, and I get an email from this lady, and it said, I have an interesting opportunity to talk to you about. Can I call you this afternoon? And it looked so fishy. And I was like, no, what I mean? It didn't specify anything that was going on, but I recognized her name because it was a daughter of someone that I had interviewed on the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was John Jantz who wrote Duct Tape Marketing and a variety of small business books. It was his daughter, Jenna. And Jenna says, I want to talk, my dad. I said, all right. Well, all right. I'll tell you. We'll chat, right? So she calls up, and she said that your name's been thrown in with 4 other small business entrepreneurial experts / personalities, whatever you want to call them, to come out to Google for a special project that we're working on. We're going to do some on-camera work, and you're going to do a brainstorming session, and you're going to do these other things with the Google team that are looking to do some stuff to reach entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And it's paid, FYI, and you get all the food you want at Google. That's it. I would probably just done it for the food, but that opportunity was 100% inbound. You know, now can we point to exactly how that happened? Maybe not. What helped get on the map? Well, I interviewed her dad. That helped. I didn't even know he had a daughter, but interviewed her dad. Having the show and quantifying again, starting to own that space. All these different things add up to opportunities coming in, and that's that led to a book deal as well. So there's so many different things that happen that were not the case of me hiring a manager or agent going out there, hammering it down, but instead stuff that came in, especially, and this was within a couple of years. This wasn't like 10 years into it or 5 years into it. This is just within a couple of years.
So you've gone from doing hockey to like 300 episodes in. Are you out there searching? Are you even asking people for interviews now, or is it all inbound?
If I wanted it to be 100% inbound, we could certainly do that. Trust me. I get more requests now. Very blessed, but I get more requests than we could possibly handle ever. And I get more books sent to me. I'm very glad that I get books sent to me, but I have like a pile over here of death of books. But, yes, I could go that way, but I'm always trying to elevate the game. I'm always trying to say, okay, who's the next echelon of great people that I can go after, that I have to go after, And so Barbara Corcoran's a great example. That was a cold email that I sent to her that actually did not work, but then I had a friend that I just didn't hear back, but I interviewed one of her colleagues, and then I was able to get an introduction. So your network ends up multiplying over time as long as you treat people well. And so for now, but I'm always trying to elevate it. I don't like to sit back. I've noticed that my favorite ones are when I come up with someone that I really want to interview, and then I spend a lot of time hunting them down, as opposed to somebody that just kind of comes inbound.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to another point that the Tim Ferriss interview that you did. Can you tell us a bit about that one, like the process? Because that wasn't just like send an email and he said yes. Could you walk us through what happened there?
Tim Ferriss only took 2 years to get on an interview. By the way, and Mark Cuban, who's on my list right now, is at the current 3 years. But I'm going to get Mark Cuban. You mark my words on it. Mark Cuban will be on the show. I will get him. It's going to happen. Tim Ferriss was a 2-year process. I started with him. First of all, I read The 4-Hour Work Week. I was a big fan of the book. And I reached out to him kind of randomly when I was just starting, kind of. Not really just starting, but, within the first couple of years. And I said, hey, Tim, here's my show. Would love to interview you. And I got the total brush off. I got the, we're not really doing media right now. Okay? And I think he's like, oh, reach out again in 6 months. Duh, crap. So I was like, okay. So within those I marked it on my calendar, the exact 6 months from that date. And I said, I will email him because I will still be here and I will still bother him. Yeah. Within that time frame, though, I was always looking for little ways to build the relationship with Tim, right? So how do I do that? Well, number one, whenever he was organically mentioned in the show, someone's like, oh, I love the 4-Hour Work Week, or I happen to mention his blog post or something like that, of course I'm going to send him an email and say, hey, Tim, by the way, we mentioned you. Hope all's well. Bye. I didn't request an interview again every time. It would have not worked. I mean, it was just sending him some goodwill. Mm-hmm. I commented a lot of time on his blog posts, that he puts up. I go in there and offer some kind of somewhat probably not that insightful comment on his blog post. I always shared his stuff. On social media and stuff like that. And people notice that. Even the big bloggers, even the big A-list bloggers like Tim, they notice when people are consistently sharing their stuff. The names start to become familiar,
Sorry to interrupt and to use one of your techniques. One thing I want to ask you there is when you do comment on a blog, what do you put in as a link? Do you link it to something else? Like, what's your etiquette? Do you link it to
so my etiquette
link it to another site?
Great question. My etiquette is always the passive etiquette. So, most when you comment on a blog, it's going to ask you for your name, your email, and your website. And if you click your photo or your name, it's going to take you to the website. So my policy is never to go beyond that. I'm never going to insert another link in there or anything like that. Like some people get kind of obnoxious and they'll put like, you know, they'll write their comment out and then they'll say like David Siteman Garland, the rise to the top, and they'll have another link. I don't like that. I feel like it just feels a little too pushy. So I just do the name, email thing, and then leave a comment. I gotta tell you though, Tim Ferriss being one example, Gary Vaynerchuk being another example, his website. Anytime I comment there, including right now, if I went like right off this and just went and left a random comment there, I have gotten traffic from every single one of those comments. It's unbelievable how that works.
Mm-hmm. So you're linking to like maybe a relevant episode or something like that. So if you went to Gary,
I just linked to my homepage. I just go to the homepage. Yeah, I don't even mention what I do per se. Maybe people just like to click on my face. I don't know what it is, but they
you got a nice face.
No, I don't promote anything except for there's just a link to my homepage. But if you go to Google Analytics, I can see that, you know, from this Gary Vaynerchuk random post that I commented on, you know, 20 people have come over. So it's just a bit by bit way of getting people over without being scammy or too, you know, ridiculous with it.
Yeah, the thing is that the concept behind it is if you leave a comment that adds value to the conversation and builds on what's already there, then it's like, yeah, cool, I'll accept that comment. That's a good comment, and then they approve it, and you get your link. That's basically what's happening,
right? And it's it doesn't need to be anything better than just going to people that you really like, people that you want to interview, and, you know, commenting thoughtfully on their blog post, you know, or whatever it might be, or on their show. It helps for sure.
All right, so we'll go back to how the Tim Ferriss interview came about. So you're out there, you're leaving comments on his blog. Sort of what sort of
comments on his blog, sharing his stuff on social media, and this isn't like an everyday thing. It's just, you know, periodically when he would cross my mind, I put it in there. 6 months later, reach out for another interview, shut down again, right? So no, we don't really have anything going on. Here, a big lesson that people struggle with here, especially with big name people, is that they're only going to come on and do interviews if they have something to promote. Right, so meaning like a book or something, anything. It doesn't mean that you have to talk to them necessarily about that subject. But think about the Tonight Show or anything like that. Any actor or actress that comes on there, they're coming on because they have a movie coming out, right? Yeah. And they come on there, but they might not even talk about the movie. They might talk about the movie for 2 minutes at the end of it, but they're going to talk about their latest trip to, you know, Cannes or something. Who knows? But but it's an excuse to get on there. So timing matters a lot. So I kept out this. And then there's that opportunity to strike, right? And the opportunity to strike with Tim Ferriss was when he announced the 4-Hour Body. His second book was coming out. And I was like, perfect. I don't get it now. I don't know what to do. So I email again, set it up. Yes, he'd love to. And I ended up getting an exclusive on this where he hadn't even shown the book yet, like the actual book. So like it was a huge book. I mean, it's like 400 pages, like holding it up on screen. We talked about all kinds of different things. And it just ended up being an unbelievable interview. And the crazy thing is, this is why patience sometimes and persistence pays off, is that I didn't tell him to do this at all. He embedded the interview on his website. It's still up there, you know, on the 4-Hour Workweek blog, and the link back to the risetotop.com from the site. It sent like 100,000 people to risetotop.com since 2010, end of 2010, which is unbelievable. But again, patience. You know, too many people, whether it's you want to do interviews or do anything else, they just try to come in and like, how quick can we do this and, you know, turn it over? I mean, every 6 months I was sending him an email for 2 years, you know? I mean, this is just the way it goes.
That's a long time, man. That's a long time to really be going for it, but you got it. You got that.
Right, and then it's all worth it.
Yeah. All right. So who's another guest? Like, who would be in your top 5 of guests that you were just like, I know you're a dancer. I've seen you getting into stuff, you know, on some of your videos there. You have a lot of fun. So who was in the top 5 interviews that got you dancing around the house going, yes? Got him.
That's a great question. You know, some that I really liked, that I was really excited to get. Gary Vaynerchuk was always a big one. I mean, he's one of my mentors and a good guy, and he's always excited. But a couple other ones that I really liked. One, the millionaire matchmaker, Patty Stanger. That was a huge guest that I got, especially early on. And 2 other ones that are a little bit underground in terms of that they're not internet marketing per se, but they're 2 guests that I was super pumped about. Number 1 was Neil Strauss. Are you familiar with Neil Strauss?
I know the name, but I think I know it from you mentioning
So Neil Strauss Neil Strauss, again, one of those guys who kind of prides himself on not being so accessible, like Tim Ferriss, which again makes me very happy when I can get him for an interview. Yeah. Neil Strauss is a multiple times New York Times bestselling author, and he's a rock and roll columnist, interviewer for Rolling Stone for a long time. And he's best known for his book called The Game, which is where he infiltrated the world of pickup artists that, you know, go around and pick up women. And he infiltrated that world and became like the world's top pickup artist. And forget about the topic. The book is just brilliantly written. Like, it's about his experiences. It's just an incredibly interesting book. But bottom line is, Neil is a hard to reach guy, and I was so lucky to get him I was so happy to get him for an interview when I got that done. And we talked about everything from getting a report, because he's interviewed everyone in the world. You know, Britney Spears to Lady Gaga, everyone in between. And he wrote a book called Everyone Loves You When You're Dead, which is like these insights from these celebrities that they never revealed to anyone else. He's best known for getting people to open up. Like, he gets them to like just open up and spill out everything. And that interview was so much fun because I was getting him to spill out. Then he reversed it on me, and I was spilling stuff out. I don't know what the hell was going on. But that was one of those ones I was super excited to get. And another one, this is going to make my taste in reading a little weird, but was Tucker Max. Tucker Max, he's best known for Frat Tire, creating that type of humor, which was he wrote about like these crazy sexual escapades and stuff like that in this book called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. And it's freaking funniest book ever, but Tucker has an incredible story. A lot of people see him as this sort of like fraternity type guy that's kind of like a D-bag, but he's not at all. Very smart guy. And he came on and he talked about how he was rejected by 100 publishers, how he built his online presence and then took his crazy stories and put them up online, and then they all came crawling back. And, you know, he was one of those guys, though, where I felt like it was such a good portrayal of him on the show, because a lot of people think him as being a jerk. He's not at all. He's a very smart guy. And that one I was very, very excited. I even had a beer on the show with Tucker Max, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right. So could you just for right now, I don't know if you want, could you do like a spot on interviewing, you know, like why someone should go out and interview experts, no matter what field they're in, no matter what they want to do with it, just the value of the interview.
Yeah, so, you know, if you got to think about how am I going to learn how to do something, or what is someone that I've always wanted to talk to or learn from or have, you know, just get to pick their brain, right? Well, there's a few ways you can go about that. You can spend probably zillions of dollars or try to stalk them and get arrested or whatever it might be, or you can create something that positions you as a top interviewer to bring these people in, and you get to pick their brain on anything that you like. And for me, it has been the number one thing that has not only built my business from, you know, 0 to 6 figures, built an audience from 0 to 250,000, but also the most I've ever learned, more than school, more than anything else that's out there. Interviewing is the best way to learn one-on-one from people that you look up to, experts, anyone in your industry, and I cannot recommend it enough just for that.
Okay. And that actually leads me to my favorite point right now, is that you created a course, which I actually bought a few weeks back. And that's how we met. Like I said, I emailed you, said I got the course. And because I was already in the game, I was already sort of, I've done a bunch of interviews. We talked about this a little bit before. It highlighted for me the rookie mistakes. It was like, when you said them, it was like, you're right. You nailed me right there and then. So for me, that kind of validated that you know what you're on about. And also, it let me know I was on the right track. But then it showed me a whole bunch of stuff that it was like, wow, I never would have thought of that, but I can totally see how that will be awesome. So I've been going through the course for the last week or so, last 2 weeks, and it's phenomenal. So could you tell us a bit about the course, kind of how you created it, why you created it, and because I can personally see that that's shortening my learning curve by years. You know,
no, I appreciate that. And I made it exactly for people like you too, and I love to hear it. Nothing makes me happier when I hear about kind of students of the course that are taking action on it and learning from it. That's awesome. And so really what happened is the idea behind the course really wasn't my idea per se. What happened was, as I started to grow the show, I kept getting requests from people all the time asking about their own shows. I want to start a show, or I have a show. How do you build the audience? How do you get amazing guests? How do you get sponsorships? How else can you monetize besides sponsorships? How do you conduct a non-boring, really solid interview? How do you do these things? And these questions kept coming over and over and over again. And so I put out a poll and I said, listen, or a survey, and I said, I'm thinking about putting a course together to help people create awesome interviews. Do your own interview web-based show, whether you're starting from scratch or you have it and you're looking to take it to the next level. Either way, I'm going to put this together. What's the interest? Put it out there. I was like, maybe like 3 people respond. I don't know. Boom. It was like flooded. I mean, the amount of people that came in, they're like, yes, we want it, we want it, we want it, we want it. And I was like, well, now I got to go make it. So I spent months actually on this because when it comes to creating a product, I want to make something that's huge value. I want to really over deliver on it. So I spent months and months working on it, and I created training modules, teach people from scratch, from start to finish, everything they need to know, A to Z, from the guests to everything, and then also interviewed 6 top interviewers about all their secrets to success. And then, put together a lot of my other private stuff, whether it's access to my web designer and, graphic designer, sponsorship packets that people can copy to send to sponsors, scripts for getting guests, scripts for getting sponsors. All this stuff got put together into one big digital course that people can access and download online. And that's really where Create Awesome Interviews. So we've had hundreds now of graduates, if you will, meaning people that have gone all the way through, have gotten their shows up and have been improving them, and it's just been an awesome experience. So it's called Create Awesome Interviews.
Okay, guys, I'm going to put a link to that course, so if you want to go check it out, and big disclosure, it's an affiliate link. So if you do that, you're supporting my show, which is awesome.
Always do that. Always support.
And also, I'll put a link to the Rise to the Top to the show, so you can actually go and view these 307 episodes of the Rise to the Top. But yeah, just my little 2 cents on that course. You need that mute button.
Right. As I just cough right in the microphone.
Just my 2 cents on that course. Those 6 interviews, and there's a bonus one in there as well. What do you call them? The interrogations.
Right.
Yeah, I learned so much from those guys, man. It's just phenomenal, the stuff that they bring out that you're just like, man, unless you're talking to someone who's been through the trenches, who knows what they're doing, you just would not think about those situations. And some of those interviews are just, they're worth the price point alone. Just those 6 interviews.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And also, and also we have screencasts and all the technology to use. And the other thing is, if you come in and you grab the course, and of course you're going to be supporting Peter as well. If it's a fit for you, at least make sure to get on the email list as well, because then you're going to find out about that the new website when it comes out. So so that's going to be very, very excited about that, because a passion of mine, Peter, is to help people like you. And I'm not even talking from an expert standpoint. I'm talking from a community standpoint, because you have lots of questions. I've got lots of questions still. Everyone has lots of questions about how we're going to make it in this new media world. And that's really where we can get the power of group together, is coming in and bringing in a lot of top people and offering insights. So I'm very excited about that new site and new show that's going to go along with that site. That is going to be so cool. I'm so sick right now, and I'm still excited about it. So,
listen, David, look, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, especially being sick and all that sort of stuff. Like, this is just a total bonus. I'm just rapt that you actually said yes. You're one of the. I'm dancing around the house. I got Dave. So I'm really excited that now I can share this with the world and share you with the world, and hopefully get some other people onto that course, because I've done a lot of courses over the last 3 years of learning the whole internet space. You just break it down. It's just so real, so simple. It's almost ridiculous how simple it is to do this.
Right. But
and
that's it. It's simple. It's not easy, meaning but it's simple. And I think that's one of the important things. And I appreciate that, Peter. And it's been an absolute blast. I told you, man, I'd medicate myself and get ready for you at 4 a.m. Australia time. So we're good to go.
All right, man. Well, thanks heaps. I just want to ask you one more question. Can I get you back on the show at some point when I'm all branded and looking pretty and got a whole bunch of stuff coming along?
I'm in.
Give you a recap.
We'll have a homecoming. It'll be good. I'm in.
Excellent, man. Well, you make it a great day. And, just thanks again. I just appreciate it so much.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
See you, mate.